Hello, 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 and welcome to yet another edition of the Dishonor Report, the pod of the century. Happy to be here. I did receive a little feedback this weekend. A friend of mine had a wonderful engagement party, a wonderful time. Very happy for the happy couple. And a friend of mine, who will remain nameless, may or may not be employed, came up to me and said he had listened to the pod, which was wonderful. Happy to have a listener. And he noticed that I had changed the hair product that I had used. So I think that was our most recent episode, or maybe the one right before it, that I spoke about that. But, shout out to him, our listener, the listener of the Dishonor Report. Along with people who stumble upon this somehow, years and decades later, who are probably so surprised at my rise to prominence, that are now having to listen to this. Had a nice weekend. Had a nice weekend, had that. That was a big part of the weekend. To hang out with the dog, hang out with baby bro, my dog, shout out him. He would appear on the pod. He might be a guest next week, we'll see. But yeah, I guess we'll kind of get into it. Now, kind of continuing with what we talked about last week, my weird Irish Republican Anglophile thing I got going on here, because I love I'm very interested in the politics, in electoral politics in general, but the United Kingdom specifically. Something about the scale and size of the nation that makes me really interested. The sort of different polling forces, whether that be the media. GB News, the Fleet Street newspapers tend to lean really farther to the right, but there's also this really strong working class thing going on, and there's some socialism that has kind of been in the history of this country that, it's such a unique place compared to other places in Europe, like compared to France, like they've really never had a revolutionary break, the United Kingdom. I guess you could say, going back to Cromwell and what happened in the 17th century there, which was really interesting. Charles II Charles I, Charles II, because now we have Charles III. Charles I, Charles II, everything that went down. Eventually, the Glorious Revolution. As a Catholic, I don't think it's that glorious. That really changed things. It's a unique place. Doesn't have a revolutionary rig like I said France does, where they had this crazy land distribution. The revolution. France did several revolutions. Look at the 1830 revolution. We're thinking around the Fifth Republic at this point. And there's still people who are Orleanists or Bourbons, or love the Bourbon, or Orleanists, Bourbonists. Bonapartists. So they still have all these really interesting breakoffs fighting for a return to monarchy, which not that Macron is the most popular guy. I'm sure that's going to sound great on this mic, that cheap mic that I have, Macron. I do not speak French, but alright, let's get into the UK local election. So for those of you who don't know, the UK has a kind of different system than we do here in the glorious United States of America. Praise be, United States of America, whatever. Civic religion, you gotta praise be. So they have general elections for Westminster, which is the MPs, the members of Parliament. It's every 5 years, but it's not every 5 years because you could call elections quicker, but it has to be at least every 5 years. So there was most recently one in 2024. The Conservatives have been in power. The Tory party, the Conservatives, since I believe 2010, when Gordon Brown lost to Dave Cameron. Did I say David Cameron? It's David Cameron. I'm thinking of James. Not the guy with the submarine who gets angry at people and makes blockbuster films. I can't wait for Avatar 7 and 8, or whatever comes out. They did fire, they did water, maybe they'll hit up air, maybe some rock avatars. Some tree avatars. There's a lot of more. They could go electric fighting type, doing Pokemons. Pokemans, as my father would say. There's no A. It's a different system. They had the election in 2024. The Labour Party, which is their center left sort of party, comes into power with a significant share of the MPs elected, but not a significant share of the vote share in total. I think it was only around 30-something%, but they won like significant majorities of the seats because of the first past the post system. And then we saw the rise of Reform UK, who was originally UKIP. They pushed for Brexit. So this guy Farage, he pushed for Brexit. He's this very magnetic media figure. He does cameos. Like he's got all this. He's a really unique figure. He's like a far right. He's like a buddy of Trump, or he tries to be. So he's part of that sort of like ethno-populist, thing going on in Europe, even though they're not in the EU, but it's still Europe. And Labour brings in this guy Keir Starmer. Labour in 2019 had this guy Jeremy Corbyn, who was kind of like a Bernie Sanders-like figure. But unlike Bernie Sanders, who was Jewish, Corbyn was kind of mired in these scandals related to anti-Semitism at the higher levels of his party, and it ends up being expelled from the Labour Party, but remains still popular. Has been a strong voice against the genocide in Gaza and for other like major left-wing policies. And he's just trying to start his own party. It's not really working. But if we're doing the whole UK landscape, because I'm sure my listeners want to hear this, Labour brings in this guy Keir Starmer. So he was the head of the Crown Protection Service, which is like kind of like the FBI. He was like the leader of the FBI in the UK. He's this kind of like London lawyer guy. Was in the cabinet because they have these things called shadow cabinets. So like if you're not the party in power, everyone still assumes positions. Wait a second. I've been using this mic, and what? I'm pausing this. What? All right, I think we're back now. I'm not sure what that was. I guess I'll check, and I guess the webcam was recording me, I hope. That was several minutes of me talking about British politics in my weekend. What the people want. I know it's what the people want. All right, so I guess I can continue, I guess. So the Labour Party gets this guy in, Keir Starmer. He is one of the least charismatic people I've ever seen. When he talks, no one listens. He's just got no charisma. They kept asking him to like say interesting things about himself during the campaign, and he was just like, I don't know, my father was a tool maker. That was his big thing. So the only thing people know about him is that his father was a tool maker. And he's an Arsenal fan, I believe. Sad. I guess I got him in the league, so not sad. But yeah, so that's Keir Starmer, just a nothing guy. But he kind of like he brought in all the old guys. Like the Labour government last time was it was under this guy Blair, the Blairites, New Labour. They were kind of closer. They're kind of like the Clintonites of the day in the United Kingdom. Similar timeline. So they were like kind of like a center left, center, like really truly a centrist party. Willing to be conservative, willing to be more leftist. So he brings all those guys in, and he basically he purges anybody to the left of him, the Labour Party. So he really took it over in a short period of time, which is interesting. And he ran this campaign called the Ming Vaz strategy, which essentially is don't break anything, don't be controversial, don't put anything out there. Like everything is set up for you to win. Win, calm, don't mess it up, do it. Which is what he did. Huge majority with not a very good share of the vote. And then there's the Conservative Party, was led by Rishi Sunak, now Kemi Badenoch, Ed Davey, the Liberal Democrats, which is really supposed to be like the centrist party in the United Kingdom. Davey's kind of known for like publicity stunts. Like I remember seeing a video of him at like a water park, like going down the slides saying like vote for the Lib Dems during the election. So that's kind of like they've always kind of been like the third party in the United Kingdom. And then lastly, I'll bring up Zach Polanski and the Greens. Polanski's there are Green parties all over the United States. We have them. Jill Stein famously runs for president, and maybe he's a Russian asset. But he basically said, hey, there's an opportunity here for the Green Party. Corbyn kind of was flailing with his leftist party, so he said, why don't we become a leftist party? Which is an interesting proposition, especially in a system like it is a parliamentary system in the United Kingdom. There is opportunities to create new parties in ways the United States really doesn't, except maybe at a local level. But he really said, hey, we'll be like a leftist party, leftist economics, mixed with some of the green stuff like anti-nuclear. I don't love some of the more NIMBY-ish stuff you get from the Greens, but it is an interesting proposition to kind of bring in those left populist economics into a Green Party. And that's what he's done, and he's done very well in London. In other urban areas, young urban areas, universities. But yeah, so getting to the results, so they had the local elections, which is for basically like the town councils, the mayors, which is separate from members of parliament. Or even in the United Kingdom is technically a bunch of different countries stitched together into one United Kingdom. Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and England. And various principalities, Channel Islands, Chagos Islands, kind of, bunch of places, but they have their own parliaments. I believe it's called the Senedd in Wales, and I think it's just called the Parliament of Scotland in Edinburgh, Scotland, Edinburgh. And they both have nationalist, kind of left of center parties. So in Wales, it's Plaid Cymru. And they won a majority, even though historically Wales had basically been the heartland of Labour. Wales and then sort of the north of England, which we talked about the north of England the last episode. A lot of England talk. More than we probably should be for a successful podcast, but England interests me. They speak English, so I can read stuff about them and listen to stuff about them. So yeah, that was kind of like the Labour heartland for many years, going back about the party's about a little more than 100 years old. So going back for a long time, that had kind of been where they would pick up significant numbers of seats. They had basically had control of the Senedd from the time that it started in like 1999ish, maybe 98. And then Plaid Cymru comes in, takes it over. The SNP, the Scottish Nationalist Party, which unsuccessfully lobbied for independence in the referendum in 2014, I believe. Which I do remember that. I remember staying up. No, I didn't have to stay up. It's they're 5 hours ahead of us. So they've been in power there for a long time, but they made bigger strides as well, taking seats from Labour that Labour had held for a long time. And the winners of this election can be seen to be Ed Davey, Nigel Farage, and Zach Polanski. They made the Greens. So the Lib Dems, Reform, and the Greens each made significant steps forward. The Conservatives, who have been in power for a long time, really unpopular, had a bad showing. And then Labour, really unpopular right now. Keir Starmer is the most unpopular politician since they began polling in the United Kingdom. Prime Minister. And results show it. They lost, I believe, almost 1,500 councillor seats in almost 40 councils. So it was a significant loss. And he was already unpopular, already has major issues within his own parliamentary party. So what do we see? Catherine West, an MP, I believe in the London area, earlier today called for him to resign, called for Keir Starmer to resign. However, she did kind of make an amendment. She said she wants a leadership. She's going to be collecting signatures to have there be a leadership vote in September, which is interesting because the timeline for this is a bit complicated because there's really three main figures in the Labour Party that are seen as options to take over for Starmer currently. Now, we have these situations where people can rise to the moment. We have no idea. I don't live there. I've never been there, but I'm interested by it, and I read about it and listen to it, listen to things about it, watch things about it. So there are really three. Wes Streeting, the current health secretary, secretary of the NHS. That's his brief, the NHS. I was going to take a sip, and that was closed. I apologize. I'm going to put my mic away so you don't have to listen. Back. Yeah, Wes Streeting. He's a younger guy, strong communicator. He's gay, which doesn't really mean much, but it's an interesting thing. Um, Strong communicator, has an important brief for the NHS, which is the National Health Service. They basically, that's like the hospital system basically for the entire country. And doctors, and they do a bunch of stuff that we don't have, because we don't have public health care like them. We should. Angela Rayner, who was, I believe, like was she deputy? She might have been deputy prime minister, but she had a big role in the cabinet. Kind of seen as like someone with in touch with the base of the Labour Party, because she kind of came up through organized labor. She was a labor leader. She has, I believe, she never went to college. She has a background in organizing with unions, and those are kind of her constituency, which has long been the heart of the Labour Party, of course, given the name Labour. But she ran into issues with her, like, a mortgage. She had like some mortgage scandal, so she's still kind of sorting that out. So it may take time to actually sort that out, so she can really stand on some strong ground if she were to run. But she's right now not in the cabinet. She had to leave because of the mortgage thing, but she's still in Parliament. Lastly, a guy I like a lot. I read a couple pieces about him, listened to him talk about some of the stuff he's doing right now, and he's also a fellow Evertonian, a fellow Everton fan. That would be Andy Burnham. So Andy Burnham is the mayor of Greater Manchester. In the United Kingdom, like major metro areas will have mayors. So it'll be mayor, instead of like being the mayor of New York City like Mamdani is, he would be like the mayor of Long Island and New Jersey and Westchester, North Jersey. It would all kind of be one thing, but they would each have different town councils. So that's kind of how he's in Manchester, I believe England's second largest city. And he's making great strides there. They've done significant amounts of investment into public transportation, something called the B network, because that's kind of like the symbol of the city, is the B. But they've done a ton to build up infrastructure, to incentivize business to invest and grow. I think they built like the new BBC headquarters is in Manchester, which is a nice thing. Driving media is always a positive. So he's done a ton, and he's an Evertonian, which is great, in Manchester. And he was a part of former Labour governments, I think last in like 2009, 2008. And then now he's kind of gone to Manchester, and he's become essentially the most popular politician in the Labour Party in the United Kingdom. Considered to be a guy left of Starmer, definitely more progressive than Starmer. So he's a really interesting factor, but part of the issue is you need to be in Parliament to become Prime Minister. He's not. He's in Greater Manchester, as I said. So the conditions would have to be somebody would have to either step down or sadly pass away. Something would have to happen to open up a seat that he could then step in and take, and he would have to win an election, a by-election, which is a long road. It's not easy. A couple months ago, I want to say maybe 2 months ago, somebody in Manchester had resigned due to, I think there was a scandal or something, and Burnham put his name in because he kind of saw the writing on the wall, like, Keir Starmer's super unpopular. We've got these elections coming up here in May. I want to be in Parliament and have an opportunity to challenge for the leadership of the country and be the Prime Minister and leader of the Labour Party. And I keep explaining like the nuances of this political system to nobody. This is fun for me. You don't realize how fun this is for me. I really enjoy this. I'm such a freaking nerd. It's insane. I love electoral politics and governmental systems. I find it endlessly entertaining. If that says something about me, what are you going to do? It's going to be like a 2-hour podcast of me explaining British electoral laws. So something called the NEC, the National Electoral Council. They make, when there's, I think they step in when there are elected people who want to run for Parliament. So they step in and they have to basically okay them. And then after that, I believe the local councils decide who gets to actually stand for the party, because they're supposed to have an insight into who local people are that would be good for the seats. So he had to go in front of the National Election Council, and what Starmer has done, as I said, he has really taken over and purged the Labour Party of his enemies and put his people in charge. And what he did is he he kind of got everybody together and said, we're going to deny him. The reason they put forth was because it would be expensive to hold another election to elect the mayor of Greater Manchester, and that was kind of like their excuse to stop him. And eventually somebody else ran, and they ended up losing the Labour Party, who had held the seat for a significant amount of time. This was a strong Labour seat, lost it to the Greens, to an upstart Green candidate, who's now a member of Parliament. And Labour had lost the seat, which in the grand scheme of things, they had such a large majority, it didn't really change much. But still, how does that look that you're putting forth the most popular politician in your party for a seat, the seat that your party has held for decades, and then you as leader, you block it for petty personal reasons. Like, you're not putting your best foot forward. You put someone else in, and you lose the seat. Like, how does that look as a leader? And it looked bad now. It still looks bad. It looks worse, honestly. But it was a self-preservation move, and he still has to find a way to Parliament. So for Burnham to get back to Parliament, somebody will either have to resign, pass away, step aside, and he would have to win a by-election and get past the National Election Council, the NEC. I'm not an expert. I haven't asked anybody about this, but in my mind, if it's this important, like saving the Labour Party, fighting for a progressive vision for Britain, if you could resign from the mayoralty of Greater Manchester to take the seat, why not do it? I'm just saying, that's my thought process. If you could remove that step by resigning and then instead standing, then why wouldn't you do that? If you're saying, hey, I want to be prime minister, I'm the guy who's got the best chance of moving this party forward. Are you going to take the risk there? In my mind, it's worth it. But then again, I'm not these guys. I'm probably missing the nuances of the law that I just don't know, as I do not live there. I have not been there. I have been across the Irish Sea. I have been across the Dogger Bank. I have never been to the United Kingdom. So, oops. Yeah. So as I said, Catherine West called for him to drop out. Since then, 70 MPs out of a parliamentary party of about 450, I believe, have publicly urged him to either resign immediately or set a timetable for his departure. As I said, I would love to see Andy Burnham take the leadership of the Labour Party in the United Kingdom, but a lot has to happen for that to happen. Wes Streeting, who is kind of the guy in the best position right now, has been known to be somebody with significant ambition. And he hasn't, he's dealt with that for a while. People have kind of attacked him on it. But at the end of the day, he's a pretty centrist guy. He doesn't seem to be much of a risk taker. What the difference is between a Starmer and Streeting government, I don't see it. But we'll see. There's a lot that can go on here. This goes, they have, I don't think, Starmer, everything he's postured is that he will not resign. He will fight any leadership battle. There's conversations going on within the United Kingdom. They really haven't had a stable prime minister since David Cameron resigned after Brexit, after the referendum. There's a question of, in this current climate, is it possible to be a prime minister who lasts? And I think that's an interesting question and one worth exploring. The United Kingdom doesn't have one unifying constitution. The constitution is essentially a bunch of documents over 1,000 years. One was Magna Carta, maybe not 1,000, but close to 1,000 years. So it takes a lot to make changes there. It takes a lot. So, all right, we'll come back across the Atlantic for more electoral politics and more fun that my listeners love. And I know they love it. I know. Almost as much as me talking about my hair product, which is fantastic. Virginia. So in Virginia, a couple weeks ago, had a big referendum, essentially to do a new map for their state for Congress, drawing new districts, redistricting. to give the Democrats more seats because of this fight that's gone on. Kind of started in Texas with Greg Abbott changing the maps in mid-cycle redistricting, because redistricting is a 10-year process. It happens in line with the census. So this is a kind of like in the middle of all the redistricting. I am going to struggle to say redistricting. I'm just letting you know. So they did it. A bunch of other states have kind of fallen in line and done the same on both sides. California had a big referendum a couple months ago, and they passed a law to increase the Democrats' number of seats. Virginia did the same more recently, but the Virginia Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, basically said even though there was a big vote on this was decided by the people. This was not elected officials. This was something that was voted on and won based on the will of the people of Virginia, the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And they have thrown it out. So there's a lot of things going on right now about how to deal with that. I'm not going to throw theories. I'm not a lawyer about how to deal with it, like I am with the country I don't live in, throwing shit out there. And it's kind of made this thing. I know Virginia Democrats are now asking the Supreme Court of the United States, the big guys, who kind of kicked this all off with just taking a hatchet to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Asking for their help, thinking that maybe popular sovereignty, whatever it is. But it's an interesting thing that's going on about what they're going to do about it. I think right now, as it stands, this fight has gone Republicans +6. Now there's a lot of talk of blue wave. I tend to think that in some of these, when you create all these districts, you're creating a lot of districts that are lean Republican. They're not solid Republican, they're lean Republican. So in the event of a large blue wave, some or a lot of these districts could technically flip. So there is a risk involved with redistricting maps focusing all on one party, because you have to spread everything out to get those seats. So they end up making them slightly more competitive, some of the districts. So I think that's something interesting to look at. I think I saw Alabama was looking to get in the ring for the Republicans. I don't know how many seats they have. I think South Carolina as well. Get Jim Clyburn out of Congress, please. No, obviously you don't want that, but I'm not a Jim Clyburn fan. And then Indiana, a couple months ago, the state Senate of Indiana rejected Donald Trump and said, we will not be a part of this. We do not want to endorse this redistricting fight. And eventually they ended up getting primaried. A bunch of the people that were taking that stand and lost a couple weeks ago. So it's not looking good right now. It's not looking great for the states. We might need a constitutional convention or something, but I don't think the Republican Party can be trusted at this point. I think that's fairly obvious. They have not covered themselves in glory in the past 10 years, 20, 50. It's not fun to see this happening. When you see people just taking away democratic rights, it's saddening. You would think at this point, the 21st century, there was so much promise of be moving forward. We'd be building a better country, a better governmental system that was more representative, that reflected the way that we have educated our people and trust them more to make decisions. Instead, we're putting it in the hands of the wealthy few. Is the Republican Party at this point I think it's like a terrorist organization. I would love to see the stats. I think the Republican Party in the past 25 years has killed more innocent people than Al Qaeda has, or the Taliban. I would like to look that up. Like it's a terrorist organization. It's a force for evil. Said it. All right. It's a force for evil. Evil. Sports. Let's talk some sports. PGA Championship. I'll be there Friday. That'll be fun. Who are we rooting for? Maxoma, I like Scotty. Who's the guy from Jersey? Got her up. We'll root for those three. Maybe I'll throw $1 on them or two. And Everton tied with Crystal Palace 2-2. That's not fun. We've let up multiple goals for like the past 4 matches, which has not been good. Beto had an awesome goal. Made two guys miss. Nutmeg the goalie. That was sick. I was super happy about that. But also, again, Diddling doesn't play. Merlin role plays. Solid. Really quick. He's fun to watch. Be excited to watch him grow. But at this point, how bad is Diddling in training? Tyler Diddling, we spent, 30, 40 million on him over the summer from Southampton? How bad is he that he can't get any time on this team? Is it a Moyes thing? Moyes won't play him? But, Moyes is going to play... I guess he hasn't played Harrison Armstrong, but he's played Harrison Armstrong. He's been playing role. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how we finish the season. Speaking of finishing the season, our last game is Tottenham, who is not in a relegation spot anymore. It's been replaced by West Ham. Two different squads who moved into new stadiums the past 10 years. And that's not fun. I want to see Tottenham go down. I really hope they do. I hope, we haven't won in a while. I would love to just stop Tottenham and send them down. As an Everton fan. That would be so much fun for me. But, what are you going to do? We didn't beat West Ham, right? No, we beat them. 2-1, sorry. I think. Could be wrong. I've been hitting the head a lot. Yeah, Giants. Some of my Giants, my G-men. A couple of videos from the draft came out. From the draft room, Coach Harbaugh. They were super excited. They got both their guys, and makes me more excited. Arvel Reese took number 52, which I am super happy about. I really hate defensive linemen and linebackers with single-digit or numbers in the teens. I really hate it. I think it looks bad. I think you look soft. I think you look freaking tough as hell with a 58. Just a big-ass dude, strong, number 67. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's all I want. All right. This has been a solid pod. Thanks for listening to the DeSarno Report. This is the DeSarno Report, TDR. And have a great Tuesday. Thanks.